Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome back to another episode of Astrology Now with Babula Clement, astrologer, and myself, Cheryl Gottschall. So here we are, Babula, once again, and another 2 weeks down the track.
Yeah.
Just things coming up, but maybe not a huge month, but stuff happening. So
Yeah, it's not a huge month as we've gone through the year. If we remember, there's been certain periods where it's just been massive, big things happening one after another. It's not quite so dramatic this month, which is kind of nice actually. It's been pretty full on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so what do you want to start off with something before we get into the new moon?
Yeah, so just in the sort of week leading up to the new moon, just to touch on a couple of things. Venus moved into Scorpio. So yes, the Sun and Mars came out of Scorpio, and most people, myself included, felt okay, we made it through another Scorpio season. And the Sun's now in Sagittarius with Mars. But Venus now has come into Scorpio on the 5th, and she'll be in Scorpio 3.5 weeks. So, Venus is the principle that represents love, connection, attraction. It's a very magnetic sort of an energy. Passion, certainly in Scorpio, very.
Yep.
And they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and it absolutely is. It's our sense of what is beautiful. And in Scorpio, it's very deep, water sign. Psychologically, there are layers and layers and layers. People will often say things like, oh, Venus and Scorpio is very sexy. So, sex is certainly a theme here.
Yeah.
That magnetic attraction is a really strong thing with Venus in Scorpio.
It's also intense too, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very, very intense. And so Venus has a lot to do with our relationship dynamics, and the people we're drawn to and like to hang out with, and the kinds of people we're attracted to, and so on. And in Scorpio, when Venus is going through this sign, it can sometimes stir up stuff. I was almost going to say stir up trouble, but it's not necessarily trouble. It could be. It can really stir up a bit of drama.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Some people may be experiencing that a bit. It might get a bit more intensely emotional, very passionate. If we're looking at Venus as an expression of art or the artistic sort of sensibilities, in Scorpio, it's got that intense, deep, sort of passionate quality. So I often like to imagine Venus in the different signs. If that person was an artist, what would it look like? The expression of that on a canvas, for example, would be quite dramatic and tense and deep, strong colors.
And maybe also exploring death as well,
Absolutely.
It's all about the occult, isn't it?
Absolutely. And yeah, the occult, which just means, secret knowledge and what's hidden and what's not sort of obvious on the surface.
Yeah. I've seen art by certain people that they've painted, well-known artists, they've painted during a time when they were going through a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
It's very dark, but it's intense, and it's like, whoa, what is that? What is that about?
Yeah, and it can be cathartic.
Yes, exactly.
Or a musician writing a song, his or her relationship is just broken up, and it's all this feeling.
Yes, yeah.
And it might all come out in music, something like that.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there can be a bit of intent, and of course the point, if you like, of Scorpio is that there be some kind of transformation. So as Venus then leaves Scorpio in about 3.5 weeks, something in relationship dynamics, and it might be with a friend, with a partner, Venus, the feminine, a sister, a daughter, that kind of thing, will have transformed. But perhaps part of that process was that deeper issues came to the surface.
Mm,
And the underlying principle of Venus is love. So if all that's held in a space of love, then that transformation can happen in a way that's, mutually helpful.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like Mars in Scorpio, which is, battle to the death kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's about bringing stuff to the surface to release it and then forming a deeper bond, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's on offer, during this period. Look, it can even be things like the clothes we wear. If someone's really tuned into this energy, they might find themselves suddenly wanting to wear different kind of clothing, in tune with Venus and Scorpio. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a given with anything that sort of comes to the fore, isn't it?
That's right.
We express it through ourselves.
That's right. Yeah. 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 So Venus is an energy that wants to be expressed both through relationship, but also through our sense of, what we consider beautiful and appealing. Yeah, what we like, what we enjoy, what we love. Yeah.
I'm also thinking, what about people who dress in Gothic clothing? They have their own beauty in their own way. It's dark and it's intense, but it's sometimes I look at people dressed like that and I think actually that looks quite nice, the way they do their makeup. And
that's right.
something about it that is just draws you to it,
Yeah, because it can be so creative, and if it's, done with a certain style and flair, it can be quite amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And very creative. So creativity here has a depth and an intensity and a passion. Now the following day, on the 6th of December, so Venus has gone into the deep watery realms of Scorpio, and then the following day Neptune turned direct after 5.5 months retrograde in Pisces. So this is very watery, and I felt it, we're a few days after this, but there was that couple of days of those two shifts that I really felt that, okay, that something's really changing here. And, Neptune's been retrograde for quite a while, 5.5 months, as I said. And that can be a period when we feel a bit confused, a bit disoriented. Things are happening that we may not always understand why they're happening. We feel like we don't have a lot of control over what's happening. And as Neptune then turns direct and starts to slowly pick up a little bit of momentum and get moving, there can be a very noticeable sense of release and relief.
Yeah.
Yep. And I really noticed that. So around the couple of days when the planet's stationary, that energy is very present. And I remember there was particularly one day then where I was like, I feel so tired today. I felt sort of pulled into this undertow. And then I remembered, Neptune was stationary and Venus had just gone into Scorpio.
Yeah.
And then fairly quickly that lifted, even by the following day, I felt like, I felt sort of brighter again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are responding all the time to these energies.
Absolutely. Sometimes you can feel really wiped out by them.
Absolutely. Especially Neptune can be wipeout, like, if you're in a big surf and you get dumped by a big wave, they call it a wipeout. That's very Neptune. Yeah. Okay, so that leads us to the new moon. So there's a double thing going on here on the 13th of December. It's the Sagittarius new moon on the same day Mercury turns retrograde. So there's a bit of a double whammy. And just while I'm on that, it's interesting that 2 weeks later on the full moon, Chiron will turn direct. So we've got this new and full moon where on the same day of each of those events, there's a planet changing direction. So the new moon occurs for Brisbane time on Wednesday the 13th at 9:30 in the morning. That's the moment of the new moon. So for those sort of 3 days or so around that date, of course, it's the dark of the moon and we're in that deeper energy at the end of a cycle and the beginning of a new one in Sagittarius at 20 degrees. So as soon as I said that, I got a sense of like kickstart, like, something's moving and being ignited.
Yeah, that sense of adventure.
Yeah, that's right. That sense of adventure. And it could be that, all of a sudden, even the day before, the moon will be in Sagittarius.
Yeah.
And people might be feeling like, I need to go somewhere.
Yeah. Or it could also be they just feel more uplifted and optimistic and happy-go-lucky and
Exactly.
friendly, and more philosophical about issues in their life,
That's right.
a bit more broad-minded,
Yep.
change their perspective on things,
Yep, that's right. And a bit more inspired and looking for a bit of fun and adventure and just feeling that more up. But remember, it's still a new moon, so it can take a couple of days for us to for that lunar energy to really develop. But I think this is a new moon that does have that sense of uplift. And Mars is not too far away from it. It's at 13 degrees. So we've still got Mars in Sagittarius.
Well, let me ask you a question here. I'm thinking about that new moon in Sag. I've got Mars here, of course. Could it be a time when people sort of feel like they kickstart a pilgrimage to something? Because I'm thinking about Jupiter ruling Sagittarius. It's the higher the beliefs and higher teachings and that sort of stuff. And maybe it's a pilgrimage, I don't know, to find ourselves, who knows? But
yeah, no, absolutely. That is what Sagittarius is about, essentially. It's about the quest.
Yeah.
And as I said, Sag, you can see that as a theme in your life, that that quest, that search for truth, for higher knowledge, for new horizons, not only literally to go on actual adventures and explore the world, but the new horizons of the mind as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the intellect and intelligence and knowledge.
Yeah. How would that go? Like, I'm just thinking, higher minded, I guess, because you've got Mercury there as well. I'll let you go into it in a bit, but Mercury turning retrograde at the same day, is it?
On the same day.
The same day, yeah. So put those two together, although Mercury is not particularly high-minded, though, is it?
Not in the way that Sagittarius is.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of process. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there's this, on the one hand, there is this, and it might be someone's thinking, will I take that course of study that I've been thinking about next year? Am I going to do it? That thirst for something more is very Sagittarius. And because it's a mutable fire sign, it has a lot of energy to experience many different options. Yeah.
Well, the other thing with Sagittarius, it's quite spontaneous and a bit of a risk taker, I have to say. In my past, I've taken risks about a few things, but and there's that sense of just, hey, I don't know how to do it. Let's just jump in and find out. That sort of
yeah.
So that new moon in Sag might be sort of
It always feels to me like there's an aspect of Sag that's a bit wild because it's a sign that loves freedom so much. And, if you think of a wild stallion.
Yeah, I've got the sense.
What's that? The centaur, the horse. Sagittarians, we've said before, have a very strong affinity with horses. And it's such a powerful symbol for this sign, and if we see videos of a herd of horses just galloping free in the wild, I mean, who doesn't love that? It's just so amazing because it stirs up in us, doesn't it? That longing for absolute freedom in the wild, for our true wild nature to be liberated and to be free to be who we are and do as we want.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
There is a challenge for Saggies, speaking from experience.
I know where you're going. Go on.
Well, is to be responsible to maintain good morals and don't light too many fires, don't scatter yourself to the wind too much, you know. So there are a few, and don't eat too much.
Yeah.
But there's always things to, you know, there are things that Sagittarius, the shadow side of it, it just needs to watch out for.
That's right. Overindulgence is a big thing here.
But hey, look, that's what we do at Christmas time, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Like more, and Sag wants all the good stuff of life, you know, and it's not about ownership and possession of things. It's not that. It's I want to live life to the full. I want to experience it all. I want to try all the food, try all the wine, travel the world, you know, meet a lot of people. That's that. Now, taken to the nth degree, some people will say Sagittarians are so irresponsible.
Yeah, they can be. Yeah.
Yep. Because that need to be free will override everything. And that depends on what else is in that individual's chart, of course.
The classic energy, though. Yeah.
Yeah. If they've got a bit of Capricorn balance with it, which they often will, or some Saturn, that helps to sort of keep it a bit grounded and you know, and give some parameters.
It's a wet blanket to my Sag, I tell you. I'm Saturn on my
Yeah. It does feel like that to Sag.
Yeah, right. But it's like the reins of the horse. Holds it back all the time, you know?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And every now and then the Sag will want to just break free and, you know, leap over the fence.
Well, you know, I had a very Sagittarian moment. Been away down the coast for the last couple of days, and I ate something and I ate more of it. And I ate more. I thought afterwards I didn't feel too great. I thought, why did I eat all that?
That's
and
right.
that's that Sagittarian energy, you know. I don't get it so much these days, but I had an attack.
Yeah, and you enjoyed it at the time.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. But the aftermath was maybe not so pleasant.
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting that we've had this Sagittarian energy and we'll eat up big around all the socializing up to Christmas, but then Capricorn kicks in and says, sorry, time for diet, you know.
Time for diet, time to start planning things, think about the year ahead.
Yes.
You know, get yourself a bit organized, that kind of thing.
Down to that sign, I tell you.
That's right. And you see, it's all perspective, isn't it? You stand in Sag and Capricorn looks like a serious, you know, depressing downer who's trying to spoil all my fun.
Yes.
And rein me in and hold me back.
Yeah.
And Capricorn looks at Sagittarius and it just looks like an irresponsible child to them.
But there's gifts in both of them, you know.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. Absolutely. And which then leads us to, on the same day, Mercury, currently now in Capricorn, and as we speak is slowing right down, because on the 13th, on the new moon, turns retrograde. And here we go again for another Mercury retrograde, which happens 3 to 4 times a year for pretty much 21 days each time. But there's always a bit of a shadow period before and after. So the whole thing lasts about 2 months, actually. But the actual retrograde phase is pretty much 3 weeks. So new moon in Sag with Mars, lot of energy. Mercury at a standstill, turning retrograde in Capricorn.
Gosh, I just feel heavy just thinking about it. Yes. It's just such a heavy feeling to that. But, you know, there's, you know, because Capricorn wants that focus.
Absolute focus.
Focus on things that deliver results. But Mercury's saying, you know, I get a sense of restlessness when we talk about that. You know, being held back and restless, wanting to get on with it.
So Capricorn's very focused on the task, but particularly on the goal, on the mission.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And I feel like this is a combination of, I need to expand, I need to have a bit of fun, I've got a vision for the future, I can see all these possibilities opening up before me. And Mercury in Capricorn comes in and says, okay, and you need to get organized.
Yes.
Right? You need to think seriously about this and figure, so you can do both. You can actually do both. Make time to party. I'm keeping it, simple, but just to sort of as an analogy, make time for party and also spend time sorting out the stuff, organizing yourself, making a few plans, making sure you've got your diary there for next year, starting to kind of look ahead a bit and think about, think more seriously, which is Capricorn.
Yeah, I'm thinking Mercury in Capricorn, like meticulous planning.
Yep. Oh, unbelievable capacity for planning and organization.
Yeah. Oh, God.
and for many, and I'm feeling this, it can be that strong need to clear the decks, to clear out all the files in the office, like to clear the way, which is very Mercury retrograde anyway, to go back over things. And reorganize means going back over the old stuff, to clear all the old stuff out and make space for afterwards, when Mercury turns direct, which he'll do on the 2nd of January. Now, we enter 2024 with Mercury being the only planet retrograde, because Jupiter turns direct on the 31st of December. So New Year's Eve has Jupiter, the ruler of Sag, planet of abundance and a good time, starting to move direct on New Year's Eve. And then 2 days later, Mercury will turn direct.
I just want to go back to that Mercury retrograde in Capricorn.
Yeah.
There's a sense to me of, I've been having this conversation with a couple of people lately, that just reflecting on the information that we were fed over the last few years, and how quickly people forget things. Even I say, oh God, I forgot about that,
Right.
I'm wondering how that will, Mercury retrograde, looking at all that Capricornian stuff, that, the establishment and all that sort of stuff in the media. How do you think that might play? Is it going to be like reflection on news stories and, and they said this, but look, now they're saying this, that sort of thing?
Absolutely. That's a really good point, because Capricorn does tend to anyway look to the past, right? And Mercury retrograde, that's what it's about. It comes forward and then it goes, no, we need to go back and review and look more deeply. So it's always a deeper process. And I'm sure the mainstream media won't be doing any genuine reflection on the year. It'll still be on a very surface level. But for individuals, it is a perfect time as we move towards the end of the year to be reflecting on the year gone by and where we're at now and what has come out of it for us. It's been, for many, a very challenging year again. Some people less so. Everyone's going through their own particular process in all of this. But a great time to be doing some reevaluating and assessing, so that we come into 2024 with a bit of a clearer sense of where I'm at now, moving forward into a new year with no planets retrograde.
Yeah. There's a sense of, for me, and we do this naturally anyway towards the end of the year. We will slow down a bit and we change gears and reflect on the past. For me, it's a bit like you sort of come to a standstill, and when the horse has been galloping and it comes to a standstill, it'll go, just let all the air out and expand the lungs and get a breath, basically.
Yeah.
Like that, catch a breath,
Yeah.
And
take a pause.
You stop, you restock, you stop and you reevaluate, but you also just regather yourself.
That's right.
Gather your energy.
Yeah. And there's another thing here too. Sagittarius, loves the adventure and being with, usually likes to be with people, especially if it's upbeat and buoyant and enjoyable. Capricorn can be a bit more inclined towards solitude. So for some, over the Christmas period, Mercury retrograding Capricorn they may not particularly feel like the whole social thing, particularly with family. It might feel a bit more like a chore, a duty, which is very Capricorn.
Yes, yeah. Enduring, having to put up
Enduring,
with
yeah,
it.
just kind of hang in there and get through it.
Yeah, that sense of it, yeah. And they don't
It will
even,
be for some people. I mean, every year at Christmas, the sun is in Capricorn.
yeah, yeah.
And if it's a big family gathering, there's always at least one person who's doing all the work, Capricorn. Hopefully everyone's contributing and so on. And some people may have nowhere to go. They might be alone and might feel quite depressed about that. Some people may be choosing a quiet time of solitude because it may be exactly what they need. So I think with the sun in Capricorn at Christmas and Mercury also, let me just, interestingly, because on the 23rd of December, Mercury is still retrograde, but it's going to retrograde back into Sagittarius. Right? So, you know, what comes to my mind when I look into that, while it's retrograding in Capricorn, some people, not everyone, some people might be almost having a feeling of dread. Oh God, now I've got to face Christmas. It's all too hard. I don't know that I'm up for it. I'd rather have a quiet one. But when it retrogrades back into Sag, there may be for some people like, oh, actually, I do want to go. I do want to be part of that. I think it might be fun.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And when it's retrograding in Sagittarius, which it will do all the way through to the middle of January. Well, let me backtrack for a minute. Turns retrograde on the 13th in Capricorn, still retrograde, goes into Sag on the 23rd, turns direct on the 2nd of January. It's just for people who like to track these things. At 22 degrees of Sag. So he gets back to 22 degrees of Sagittarius, which is where pretty much where the new moon is. And then finally goes back into Cap in the middle of January. So there's a chunk of time when Mercury's actually back in Sagittarius.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's not all Capricorn.
Yes.
Yeah. And Mercury in Sag, particularly when it's retrograde, can be a time to really reevaluate our philosophical framework of understanding about things.
Yeah, I believe.
What do I really believe? What's really true for me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of have a bit of a crisis, really, in that respect.
It can be.
That's true, you know, that sort of thing.
Or we come across a podcast or some you know, some kind of presentation about something going on in the world. It might shift our perspective and our framework of understanding. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because let's have a look at one of the issues in Sagittarius is a tendency to have opinions. Now we all have opinions. You know, Sagittarius has, you know, views about things and wants to broadcast them and express them. And you know, it is the sign, after all, of the preacher.
I know. And it likes to tell people the truth, and they wonder why the people don't like to hear that.
That's right. Now, it might be the truth. It could also be an opinion.
Absolutely.
Sometimes an opinion is also the truth.
Yes.
But so when Mercury's retrograding in Sagittarius for that period of time, that's about so it's about two weeks or so, then we might be going through a process of questioning, you know, really questioning, like, is that really true?
Yeah.
And is that what I'm hearing, watching that video or hearing that podcast? Oh, that's different to what I'd originally thought, you know? So we might be questioning things, which is, I think, a very healthy thing to do. I think we need to question everything.
I do too, yeah.
In this crazy world we live in.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, so what else have we got around this new moon? Well, of course, Saturn, which was sitting at 0 degrees of Pisces for about 2.5 months, he just parked himself there as he slowly retrograded back to that degree, and then slowly sat there, and then finally began to station and turn direct, but took him a long time to get moving, has now finally come off 0 degrees and is at 1 degree. And it will be is really starting now to pick up a bit of momentum. And moving more through those early degrees of Pisces. So that can feel for many people like a bit of a relief.
Yeah, I'm just thinking how that goes together, because for that, it's also about, like, it's a reality checker about your beliefs as well. So
Yeah,
particularly your spiritual beliefs. So,
that's right.
And that combined with Mercury retrograde in Sag is also a reassessing, reevaluating,
It,
same
it,
thing.
yeah, it really is. That's exactly right. Sag and Pisces are both ruled by Jupiter traditionally. And so they do have a connection around our belief and truth and spiritual, religious, philosophical understanding and experience. Yeah. Yeah. So, as we go through life and have all these different experiences, hopefully, consciousness and knowledge and understanding is expanding and growing. That's the point, isn't it?
Yes.
So we're always up for some reality checks around all of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 Burst your bubble type of reality check.
I know. And sometimes it's extremely uncomfortable and unpleasant.
Yeah.
To come to terms with someone or a belief that we've followed or someone that we've believed in turns out to be not what we thought. It can be very painful and extremely confronting. It can take a while to adjust and integrate. Yeah. But see, in the end, Sag is about freedom, isn't it? So truth, that saying, truth sets you free. I believe in that, absolutely. And truth isn't always easy. But
No, it's not.
No.
Not when you want to remain ignorant, even unconsciously.
That's right. Even unconsciously, we want to stay in the illusion.
Yes, yeah.
So often.
Yeah. And our unconscious is very good at blowing smoke screens.
Yes.
About those sorts of things and making us look in the opposite direction to where we really need to be looking.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, exactly. So that then leads us to the full moon on the 27th of December. So over Christmas, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, the moon is growing in light. And the sun by then, of course, will be in Capricorn, and the moon will be full in the sign of Cancer on the 27th. And for many people who have different parts of family, there's family, what's the word I'm looking for? We have different parts of our family, greater family system. Not all families can get together on Christmas Day. So some get together the day after or the day after that. So all of that can be continuing. And that full moon in Cancer can be a couple of things. It can be a time to really take some time out and rest. And, for many people, be like, I just want to stay home now. Like I'm done. That was big. And now I want to rest and just stay home and be quiet and have a bit of quiet, nurturing time. For others, it could be a big time with family because it is a full moon after all, which is always heightened energy.
Yes.
So it could, for some people, bring up a lot of family stuff. The moon is full in Cancer. There might be things going on, or the aftermath of a family get together over Christmas, to be dealt with. Might be family. These are just all different possibilities. For some people, it might be family upsets. It might have been a bit emotional,
I guess we can dig around more deeply in that in the next episode.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and there's a couple of other things going on. And I think I was reading that Chiron turns direct in Aries on the December 27th, I think, or
It does, on the same day.
There's that. That's actually quite a big one because it's been in Aries for, I think it was 2018 to 27. So
That's right.
yeah, that's a lot in that.
There's a lot in that, and Chiron's been retrograde for 4.5, 5 months, which it will do every year, and it's now beginning to turn direct in the sign of Aries. So that can be really helpful and beautiful in the sense of, perhaps I would suggest that for some people, whether they're on their own over this Christmas period or with family, or with, it's not always family, is it? Sometimes it can be with friends who can feel for some more like family.
Yeah.
That there might be it might be a time of healing for some people. Perhaps stuff has come up, and it could be a time where people really are addressing wounds or issues from the past. The sun's in Capricorn, the full moon's in Cancer, Chiron's turning direct. You know, it might be time to address some things and heal some wounds.
It's not always easy to synthesize all the different layers and aspects of things, is it? And I had a friend ask me, you know, like, if that happens, X, Y, and Z happens, does that, you know, equal ABC? Well, no, not necessarily.
No.
Because, you know, astrologers can know that, but they can't actually sometimes, they get an idea about what might happen, but they can't particularly pinpoint something.
No.
They just know that something will happen, but just not what. Yeah.
And you can't be very specific and predict exactly what will happen, also because everyone's different, and it depends how these energies are hitting in things in their chart and people's circumstances, you know. So over Christmas, there's a general sense of families getting together, but that's not true for everybody.
Yes, yeah.
You know, yeah.
I'm thinking too that, you know, and I guess this is a question for you. You know, what's going on with the people, the Palestinians, for example? They've got their astrology charts happening too, but would the country's chart overrule their personal chart because they've all been put into circumstances they wouldn't ordinarily be in? So there's not a lot of room to maneuver with how their individual lives are going to play out.
Yes, because of the very limiting circumstances they're in, over which they have very little control.
Yes, exactly. So
that's right.
That's an interesting.
Yeah, that's one of those questions that is sort of worth pondering, because absolutely the country's chart comes into play very strongly with such an extreme situation, such a dramatic situation, and also the general movements of the planets in the sky for the collective play out in relation to the nation's chart. But even then, and I have a little bit of insight into this because I know a beautiful, very conscious, very heart-centered woman who lives in Israel, and she's been sharing some of what she's been experiencing. So individuals will be going through this in their own particular way as well. Absolutely. Not everyone's, even though a whole lot of people might be in the same external circumstances,
yes,
their inner reality about it can be quite.
It's a bit like what happened with the Twin Towers, right? In the US, and each person had their own individual astrology chart.
That's right.
And something happened to the US as well.
Oh, absolutely.
As a collective.
That's exactly right. So those big dramatic events that happen in a particular nation is reflected in the nation's chart at that time, most definitely.
And yet there were some people who, for some reason, just decided not to go to work that day.
That's right.
Isn't that fascinating?
It is so fascinating. And some people were in the building and survived, and others didn't. So that's right. And I'm reminded of what was his name? Viktor Frankl. Some might, be aware of him. And he wrote about his experience in the concentration camp. And because he had a different consciousness about his experience, he experienced it in quite a different way. And then afterwards, wrote about it. And it's been, I know people for whom that book was a profound teaching and a very important teaching in their life. So it's very interesting, isn't it? You know, we
Mm.
do all individually experience and process these things differently.
Mm.
Mm.
I just wanted to add something too about the color for Sagittarius because, ruled by Jupiter, which generally I read, but I've also come to understand is the color of purple
Yeah,
or violet or something like those sort of colors.
yeah.
And in color therapy, that purple represents spirituality, represents transformation and healing,
Mm.
which all relates to Chiron, the wounded healer,
Yeah,
being the centaur. I sort of always relate Chiron somehow to Sagittarius because
it's
it's
the centaur.
hard horse,
That's
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah. So I just find it very interesting how different systems have come to these understandings, but they
Mm.
can interrelate.
That's right.
Mm.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting thing about Sagittarius, the fire signs. So it's easy to think, oh, it would be red or orange.
Mm.
And that's true, but purple, absolutely. I mean, look at you today. You know, purple has such an affinity for this sign. And I know a lot of sages and have through my life. There's a lot of them in astrology.
Mm.
Um, they adore purple.
Yeah.
You know, almost half the time you see them, they're in purple.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
a natural gravitation towards that color.
Yeah. And like you said, curiously, you'd think of the fire signs as being those hotter colors, but the purple is actually suppresses or um, relaxes the nervous system, right? So,
Interesting.
and I've read that in some people in waiting rooms, if they put purple chairs and paintings, things with purple in it, it actually makes people more receptive to waiting longer. So it
Wow.
winds things down, which is really sort of counterintuitive, but that's how it works.
I guess that's the blue influence in the purple.
Could be, yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
interesting. Of
very.
course, you've got the amethyst as well, which is represented
Yeah.
as I think it's the birthstone for Sagittarius.
Oh, is it?
Or
Okay.
one of them, anyway. There's
Okay. Okay.
so many different ideas.
So
Yeah,
so there's the connection again. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But I remember years ago, I used to always notice young women, yeah, they might have been like teenagers in their early 20s, if the Sagittarians, you'd often see them with orange hair, hot pink hair, flaming red hair that they dyed because they love that dramatic fiery color in their hair. You know, I used to see that a lot. It always made me smile. And they had this kind of wild look about them, you know, wild and free with this flaming orange hair or even purple hair or something like that. I just love that. I used to know a Sagittarian woman who I've lost contact with over the years, who, I don't know, she must think she said she was about 18 or something. She took off to South America by herself, Sagittarius, had the most extraordinary adventure, quite fearlessly, because she just had to go.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, that's that impulse in Sag. So,
yeah.
so enjoy it, folks, while the sun's in Sagittarius.
Yes, kick up your heels.
Kick up your heels, take
Just
a
watch
road
the
trip.
alcohol intake.
That's right. Watch the alcohol intake. You know, too much of a good thing can be too much of a good thing.
Yes, exactly.
After all, in medical astrology, Sagittarius rules the liver.
Mm,
The
mm.
liver takes the brunt of excess.
Yeah, yeah.
Too much of the
Well,
good stuff.
if you do put on weight, viewers, you can always contact me because I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. So
That's
I can
right.
help you lose some weight or all those things, those habits that you want to get rid of, quit smoking, lose weight.
That's right. And it's what you said earlier, you know, as we move into the Capricorn season, we start going, oh my God, you know, so New Year's resolutions
Yeah.
that people make and forget 2 days later. But, you know, there's that feeling of, right, now I've got to get it together.
Yes.
I've got to pull back, clean up my diet. I've overindulged for 2, 3 weeks or, you know, and yeah, now to get serious. So
And it's
that's
so typical of what happens. I always have more clients in January for weight loss or after the holidays though, but because of that very thing. They get into that Capricorn mode and go, oh no, I realize I just have to, I've been wanting to do this, I'm going to do it, and this is the time that I do it, you know?
Because Capricorn calls us to be more disciplined, and it's the
Yeah.
sign that is naturally more disciplined. You say you're going to do it, you do it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's-
exactly. Yeah. Oh well, whatever. Sagittarius, Capricorn, just do your thing.
That's right.
Be yourself. So, well, thank you, Babula, for all that information. You know, as always, viewers, please, if you enjoy this episode, like it, leave your comments. We love your comments. And what did you get up to over Christmas? We want to know. We want to know.
Yeah, so we won't be back till just after Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you overindulge and all that sort of stuff? So
Yeah.
anyway, so we're not coming back before Christmas, no?
No. We you and I will, but the actual full moon is on the 27th of December.
Yes.
So we'll schedule a time, you know, some days before then.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Babula, and we will see you again very soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye for now.